the latest from ITV News in the West Country with Ellie Louise Ringe and Sabet Chowdhury.
Hello and welcome to ITV News West Country.
Tonight's main stories. Protesters rally as an appeal against Bristol Airport's expansion plans reaches the High Court.
We've got leaders in Sharm el-Sheikh talking about the climate crisis. Here's something that can be done about the climate crisis.
Also tonight, the mother of missing former Bath rugby player Levi Davis prepares to join the search for her son in Spain as she makes a direct appeal for him to get in touch.
I can't begin to understand how you're feeling, but just know that I do love you.
Plus, waiting for the bus that rarely turns up, the fears for rural services in Gloucestershire.
And from Bristol to the Isles of Scilly, I meet the man with a passion for ferry crossings.
I miss not being on the Salonian, and I just enjoy really just being on watching the trip.
Good evening and welcome to the programme. First tonight, arguments for and against the planned expansion of Bristol Airport have been heard in court today in what's being described as the region's biggest environmental decision in a generation.
Well, airport officials say the move will create jobs, but the West of England Mayor Dan Norris has criticised the proposals and called on world leaders at COP27 to prevent such developments. Well, Richard Payne is in Bristol, where the High Court hearing has begun. Richard, thanks for joining us. There's a lot at stake here, isn't there?
Seb, you get the impression this is the ultimate David versus Goliath battle. The climate campaigners who raised £60,000 in a crowdfunding exercise up against the fifth largest pension fund in the world with net assets exceeding £200 billion. They've had a victory, the climate campaigners, already in getting their case as far as the High Court here. But what they want, of course, is for law to be on side and to ultimately stop this expansion altogether.
You will never take away my voice.
The voices against the airport's expansion plans arrive in court with, they say, the world's climate in the dock. Plenty of noise, colour and costume not usually associated with High Court hearings, but after 4 years of campaigning, many see this as their defining moment in the fight against climate change.
We need to follow the science. We are told by the United Nations that we are almost at a point of no return. This can't be more serious, surely.
It is big enough, and there are limits, and we've exceeded the limits already.
If the expansion goes ahead, the extra emissions will be more than double that from all the transport, all the cars in Bristol. That gives you an idea of the scale of the extra CO2 emissions.
The Canadian owners want to grow the airport's annual passenger capacity from 10 million to 12 million and flights by more than 10,000 to 86,000 a year, growing the terminal and transport infrastructure to do so. Claims of job creation and economic impact have been disputed, but a carbon-neutral operation, excluding the aircraft, has been promised for 2030. West of England Mayor Dan Norris has joined every local authority in opposing the plans, which were given the go-ahead by the government earlier this year, overturning an original rejection by North Somerset Council.
Local people are incredibly clear about what they want for the planet, and what's happening with Bristol Airport is totally inconsistent with that and unacceptable. So instead of copping out, let's cop in and get the government to change the rules so that Bristol Airport cannot expand in the way that it's currently proposing.
An expansion the court heard today was given the go-ahead by a planning inspectorate which ignored local opinions and failed to follow the law. Arguments which give campaigners hope of success against the odds.
COP started yesterday. You know, what could be clearer, the messages we got from COP yesterday, and that's been heard at a local level in this courtroom today. That's a fantastic coincidence, and I think we're going to win. I genuinely think we're going to win.
The airport's legal team will do their best to persuade the judge against such optimism, with arguments of climate responsibilities and economic advantages. Whatever the final ruling, it'll be one that impacts us all. Well, no comment tonight yet from Bristol Airport. They are watching proceedings very closely, of course, as are other airports, not only around the country, but across Europe. If this approval is given and they can expand, others may well follow suit. Refused, the campaigners will be victorious, and the way we fly in the future may be changed for good.
Richard, a lot to keep an eye on. Richard Payne in Bristol, thank you. Next tonight, the family of a former Bath rugby player who's been missing for more than a week are preparing to travel to Spain to help with the search.
24-year-old Levi Davis, who took part in Celebrity X Factor 3 years ago, was last seen on camera leaving an Irish pub in Barcelona. In the past 24 hours, there have been a number of possible sightings of him in and around the city. Well, Karen Bell is in our newsroom for us this evening. Karen, what's the latest?
Well, Ellie, this is a really fast-moving story. Levi was last seen and heard from on the 29th of October, and there is CCTV footage of him leaving the old Irish pub in the centre of Barcelona on that night. Now, since then, as you say, there have been numerous reported sightings of Levi, including one just yesterday. Someone got in touch with his mother, Julie, to say they thought they'd seen Levi on one of the city's beaches yesterday. So Julie Davis is now preparing to head out to Spain to look for her son, and earlier today she put out this appeal directly to him.
Levi, please, son, if you see this message, please get in touch. I can't begin to understand how you're feeling, but just know that I do love you and our family loves you. We just want you home. And to anybody else, you know, if they do see him, please get in contact.
Now, one perhaps surprising aspect of all this is that up to now, Spanish police have not been investigating Levi's disappearance. They've been waiting for official notification of a missing person from British authorities. Well, today that notification was finally issued and Spanish police have joined the search.
OK, Karen Bell, as you say, a fast-moving story. Thank you for joining us. Next tonight, a bystander has been left with serious injuries after a motorist rammed police cars in Bristol. Officers say they were responding to reports of a stolen vehicle when the driver hit at least 2 patrol cars in St George this morning. A spokesperson said the passerby was taken to hospital with injuries that are not thought to be life-threatening. A man has been arrested.
Councillors in North